as the story evolves, not only are they hunters, but they in fact become hunted. At a critical moment in time, Hathaway has to gamble this future that he and we are invested in to have a future. He has to do a huge roll of the dice. Hathaway's trajectory is actually common. If you look at the life stories of various of the top 10 hackers in the last 10 years, they come from such diverse backgrounds. Some of them have had formal education, some haven't. Some haven't had formal education, became hackers, did time, and now they're teaching at MIT. It's computer sciences. It's all over the place, and it has to do with a general aptitude and an interest in it, and also a sense of being challenged. Challenged because it's difficult. Challenged because someone says you can't get in here, you can't do this, you don't have access. You want to bet I don't have access? We are so porous and are so vulnerable and don't know it. And didn't know it even more 2.5 years ago when I began on this, when I began doing the research and began inquiring about it. And now it's become, every day there's another hack. There's a Chase Bank hack and TJ Maxx and Target, and affecting millions of people. The revelation was that you think you're fine and you're an individual and you're living in the secure bubble, of your life, and there's various, kind of access and egress of things that go on around you, and that's not really true at all. We actually live in kind of a invisible exoskeleton of data and interconnectedness, and everything we do, everything we touch is part of the web of interconnectedness. So it's as if we are living in a house and all the doors and windows are open, and it's a very dangerous neighborhood, but we don't know it. Who is a Blackhat hacker? What's going on? What's the impetus? What's the motivation? What's his action? What does he want to do? What's the exalted experience for him? How does he start? And it usually starts with the perception of a 16, 17, or 18-year-old. They're telling me I can't get into that. You want to bet? So there's usually a challenge. You probably got into it because of the purely mental adventure of projecting something you want to do through the abstraction of one and zeros and being able to have a kinetic effect someplace else in the world. You're causing something physical in the physical material world to happen because of your ability to manipulate code. When you're hacking, it's like gaming. It's kind of an opiated feedback loop, and you lose sense of time, and you're totally immersed in a world you're in. We've all experienced this at different times in our life. You're solving a difficult math problem if you're a chess player. But the big difference is that for the gamer, the outcome is in a domain of fantasy. For a hacker, it's 180 degrees from that. The turn-on is exactly the opposite. The outcome is in the real physical world. To me, it would be a cheat to have a preconceived story and then put it within a milieu. It's like you're using the milieu as an application or kind of something to apply upon it, instead of authentically being inside the milieu and finding out what kind of people these are, how they think, how they walk, how they talk, how they dress, who are they, and and when you do that, when you do that kind of immersion into immersive kind of research, then characters show up, people present themselves, and you really get a sense of this is Blackhat hacker. What is his elevated experience in hacking? What kind of person is he? Where did he come from? What kind of family backgrounds? The first thing you find out is that the stereotype's all wrong. They're not just a lot of middle-class, skinny little white kids. It's everybody. I talked to Ron Howard, who had worked with him in Rush, and Ron had a great experience, and he was kind enough to show me about 45 minutes of Rush. And Chris is terrific in Rush, and then I really wanted to meet him. And then I went down to Costa Rica, where he was vacationing with his whole family, including his mom and dad and his brother. And now we spent about a day and a half or 2 days together just talking about the film. And I decided at that point, this guy's it. And he is, Chris is exact. What you see is what you get. Meaning that he's a charming, easygoing, relaxed guy who's very self-confident and interested in life, interested in the world, very ambitious in a really good way. Artistically, has a strong artistic ego, which I love working with people like that. And I just thought sitting across from Hathaway right here. If you were going to program an actress, you would come up with Tang Wei. She lives a kind of almost a vagabond lifestyle sometimes. She's almost transient. And she is, if she's not working, she's either on the set observing, or she's in her hotel room by herself for 2 days, 2 nights, thinking. She really just moves into that role and becomes that person and just wants to live there. And it's not out of discipline, it's sheer pleasure for her. I mean, it's just sheer an artistic immersion into another character that is also part of who she is. There's a lot of similarities between the character Leanne and Tang Wei in life. And that's probably why I responded to her right away as saying, oh, this is Leanne. This is exactly who this woman is. Leehom Wang's a huge star all across Asia. He's kind of the Justin Timberlake of Asia. He's born in Rochester, New York, and went to school studying. He's a musician. First classical violin, second jazz piano. There's some streets we were trying to shoot in, and I had to avoid one side of the street because there's a 2-story high, half-block long poster of Leehom Wang selling advertising Seiko watches. I think he's going to become probably the first, in a long time, first Asian American major movie star, I think, internationally. Okay, what's interesting about, I think, the cyber revolution, about the interconnectedness of all things, and is that I think it's one of the few pieces of technology that has a massive social, cultural, and political effect. Probably the biggest single one since the printing press. It's rare that a single technology, but there's a democratizing, leveling fact about, for good and ill, by the way, about the cyber revolution, and it's that anybody can do it. It means that secrets, there are no secrets anymore. There'll be a Snowden, there'll be other Snowdens, there'll be somebody sitting in Phuket, somebody sitting in some small town in Estonia who can access anything and everything. We shot for 66 days and did 74 locations in 4 foreign countries. And the logistics of that are kind of are an interesting challenge, because what you do on Tuesday has to happen, and then on Wednesday you're doing something totally different, and maybe a different city, different location, and every single detail that you needed to show up on Wednesday, that's got to be there, and that's the case for every single day, all the way across 66 days for about 250 people, and tons of equipment and transportation and everything, and costume design and set building and everything else that has to happen. And he and Leanne particularly have become hunters. That projects them into the heart of Jakarta. It's crowded, messy democracy, so it feels like home. It feels kind of like Chicago. And but it feels like a strange alien place because it's so culturally specific, and there's so many different cultures in Indonesia. 217 different language groups, the largest Muslim country on the planet. By the way, one night there, Wijodo, who's now the president of Indonesia, and shirt sleeves came by to say hello, and he's a very unassuming, unpretentious guy, who's it's unusual for Indonesia because he does not come from any of the political elites. I think he started as a cabinet maker. really a man of the people, and with tremendous quiet authority that you just sense within him. I wanted to find a location for them to have, as a final location, to have the final confrontations that was as alien an urban landscape as I could imagine. That took me to a massive celebration, and I didn't want the iconography of it to be known. And I wanted something completely foreign. So there's a Balinese holiday called Nyepi Day, Y-N-E-P-I. And we staged this giant celebration with about 5,000 people and built all the, Colleen Atwood built all these amazing kind of costumes, totally authentic, you know, for the different groups. And they all construct and bring various demons on palanquins that they carry. That take about 40 men to carry one of these things. And you look at this and you have no idea what's going on. And that's the idea.